Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm honored to be on the stage with this panel of speakers, and especially appreciate the invitation to do this. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident of Randall County. I'm I'm second generation Randall County. My grandkids are fifth generation Randall County, so a lot of ties to the community. So a lot of this is, you've heard a lot today, but the challenges that we have are the droughts, growth, water availability, aging infrastructure, water quality concerns, regulatory framework. So there's a lot of challenges in a municipal setting. Knowing that Amarillo is the hub, basically a hub of the region, I wanted to just cover some things about where we've been and where we're going related to how we support the region and how Amarillo only thrives when the region thrives. My background, I grew up on farming and ranching, so I've seen the agriculture side of it and the municipal side of it. I have 30 years plus experience in the municipal side. Scott's back here. He's the engineer, Scott Honeyfield. We did the Potter County Wellfield project. I was the city manager. He's the engineering project manager. But you've seen this graph in a different form many times today. This is the 100+ year of rainfall. This happens to be the city of Amarillo. And why I brought this up is, why are we where we're at today? Why did Scott and I have to run the Potter County Wellfield project? Who made the decision about Cremwa in the 1950s? Those were issues that, if you'll look at that, you saw the drought of the 1950s, and that's that extreme right in the middle. Out of the 1930s, out of the Dust Bowl, and out of the 1950s, there were a lot of people with a lot of foresight for Amarillo and the region, and Lake Meredith came out of that. But for the city of Amarillo, the Carson County Wellfield came out of that at the same time. So a tremendous amount of water production capabilities for Amarillo occurred in the late 1950s. It all went into service in the 1960s. Just as you saw from the last speaker, the 2011 event, that was right at the process where we were adding the Potter County Wellfield project for water supply. Part of that is that they had a long-term vision of what Amarillo needed and how to support Amarillo. And we are blessed to have those generations that preceded us to put us in the position. We are also blessed today to be the generation that's preparing this city for the next 50 to 100 years. And I'm honored to lead this team. A whole bunch of my team sitting here, but there's a whole bunch of them out there working today that are making this thing work. But especially for some of the people that are still here today, what are we doing today that looks like that future that they thought of back then? Those are some of the things that I think are important. So where have we been in the last decade? Here I gave you some statistics specifically about the growth of Amarillo and the things that we're accomplishing internal related to growth. And what drives that growth is our region. So everybody looks at housing and looks at different things, but you can see that this development of lots was throughout the city. And we see a consistent, continual growth of Amarillo at about a 1.5%, 1%, 1.5% on a good year, whether that's housing or other growth. But what this should tell you is that we're a thriving community over time. And that thriving community is because we have those resources in place to make that a thriving community. There's been, again, our predecessor set us up. We're setting this thing up for future generations to be successful. Okay? Why? What does that look like? So back in that 1950s, when that drought occurred and the expansion of the Carson County, on this map, the green shaded acres are the city-owned water rights, a little over 240,000 acres in all. You'll see that our system is strung out from DeSmith County all the way to Ochiltree County, okay? It's a massive amount of water rights to manage. The pink or the tan shaded on the bottom of that in Roberts County, that's Cremwa water rights. So what I'm talking about is that previous generations started this strategy. The strategy that we have in place. You understand that the contiguous acres and the rules in the water district permit those contiguous acres. You see the red dots are our wells. And you can see those in Carson County, and those in Potter County up northeast of town were the addition of that pipeline. But you can see how the footprint is spreading out. That is one of the strategies, is that we need our water production to be spread out and not in an isolated area. What we learned from the Southwest from the 1930s, remember the city of Amarillo bought the water system in 1927 from the electric company. So from 1927 through the 1950s, we relied on that Southwest well field. And if you look at those previous presentations, there was a lot of depletion in that Southwest well field. Ag and cities competing, municipal competing. Now, ours isn't all municipal use. We do represent a significant portion of industrial use in the Panhandle. But what we learned is that we should have a strategy, and these generational strategies are still ongoing today. If you see those green circles, he showed some close up in that last presentation, but look up into the Dallam County area, the northwest of those water rights, and you'll see those green circles, which is agriculture. If you look into where these water rights are purchased in Roberts County, you won't see those green circles. This has allowed us and ag to be partners and be better partners in water demand and water usage. And that is a strategy in purchasing water rights for the city of Amarillo and expanding our ability to have and have water for generations. There are calculations out there that say we have over 200-year supply. So what does that mean? Most recently, that green one right next to the Cremwa on the south end of the green up in Roberts County, that was that most recent purchase of the Mesa Vista Ranch. So our strategy there is to continue replacing water as we use water to maintain that 200-year outlook. That now we have generations that are paying for the water that they use while we replenish that and have that long-term vision for Amarillo to have a consistent water supply. But that also helps from many perspectives. You take that industry. Now that calculation of 200 years includes a projected growth of population, housing, and our projected industry within the city to support that population projected out over that 200-year window. So what does that mean if you're representing agriculture? Say you are from the Clarendon area and the college and you're looking at this thing saying, how does that impact me? Well, that allowed us to make an agreement, and with our Amarillo Economic Development Corporation and other partners, we have a packing plant coming to the east side of Amarillo to add additional industry support for our region. And those are the types of things that Amarillo is committed to and able to do with the water supply that we have. While historically this has been a contentious relationship, we are now seeing that this is beneficial for us to work hand in hand with agriculture and support the region in a manner that allows it to grow with the industry that supports agriculture throughout the region. You also saw Casica cheese on South Georgia. If you haven't seen that, that's an ag-based industry that was incentivized and brought recently. So not only are we looking for those other ways to grow Amarillo, we are looking for ways for Amarillo to support ag and the region. So short term, you see where our wells are in the Carson-Potter County area. So as we grow, let's just say, take the packing plant, it's going to need 1.5 million the first day, 1.5 million a day when it goes into operation. So we have room in that well field for incremental growth. So what you will see is that with Cremwa, when they have a master plan and they have some water supply improvements, say in the 2030s, 2040s, our next development of our well field in Roberts, Ochiltree County area will occur in the 2060s. So in the state water plan, we coordinate those next steps of those big events, but we also have in plan for those incremental growths for those needs as we grow housing and industry at this time. So hopefully what we'll see is that each time we add a major water supply, each 15 to 20 years through the 19th, all the way through the next century, that we also have that incremental supply to keep up with that. So the midterm, the short term is those incremental. The midterm is coordinating with CRMWA in the next 15 to 20 years of how we can enhance or increase, especially surface water from Lake Meredith, and continue the benefit that that does, because aquifer preservation is a strategy that we have. Maximize that use of that lake water and preserve our aquifer, and that's much easier than you talked about how slow it recharged earlier. We can't rely on recharge to meet that demand, but preserving it, we can have much more success. So that's a strategy. But long term, we will develop those well fields and expand that. Now, the infiltration up in Roberts and Ochiltree County is much faster than it is over here in where our current wells are in Carson County and Deaf Smith. We run the southwest well field only on peak demand times. So we keep it fresh, but it is typically used only during, heavily used during August, June, July, and August, just for peak demand. So we've minimized what we use down there, basically because it's ineffective and inefficient to maximize that. Okay, so Amarillo has that legacy of a reliable, high-quality water. There are a lot of things that go into that. What you see here is on the left side of that picture is a picture of the wastewater treatment, the potable water treatment plant. And that's been in place since the 1950s, since CRMWA went into play. So all that surface water has to go through that plant. That has been a godsend for the community to maximize that surface water. On the upper right is a picture of one of our wells. And so you saw those dots and how we rely on that water demand. So in the wintertime, we produce about 30 million gallons a day. On an annual day average, we produce about just under 50 million a day right now. And then on a summer day, we produce about 70 million. And so we have to have our plant will produce, the water plant on the surface will produce about 35 million max. So we do have to rely on groundwater during the summer months. That reservoir and reservoir that CRMWA have just like it came into play with the wildfires and that occurred. You can lose electricity to those pumps. That reservoir that we have has 500 million gallons in it. So on an average day, that's 10 days worth of supply right there if those pumps go out because of fires or snowstorms or whatever. So that is, in lieu of building duplicate pump stations and pipelines, we have that reservoir right at the entryway to the plant, such that if that pipeline fails, we don't have an emergency where people run out of water. So those types of infrastructure things have been tremendously beneficial. So what happens in the future, that's why we're focusing on that surface water, because those give us the best flexibility on those peak day demands. So infrastructure, you've heard it, you'll always hear it, is that, the rehab of, like, this was a repainting of the water tower. This one happens to be Independence Street down here by Western Street, and this is the first time we've put a logo on a water tower in Amarillo. So you can drive down and see that down 6th Street. But the other pictures just represent what the state of our infrastructure is. Our infrastructure matches what you hear regionally and nationally. It's old, aged, and there's so much need out there. The need exceeds our revenue capabilities. So it's a tremendous job to prioritize and continue to maintain this system. But yet, we have tremendous staff that does that and are very successful in that process. Okay, water quality. Water quality, we have an amazing e-lab down there that helps and tests our water and helps throughout the region on public water supplies. But we have consistently seen improvements in our water quality, especially with the addition of these well fields and ability to blend water with the lake water. And we continue to look for ways, and will continue to look for ways to increase the water quality. We've had tremendous success in upkeeping that plant and operating good in good manner. I don't know about y'all, but when I grew up I was a teenager in the region in the 70s, and the water quality was not as good, and we've seen an improvement. However, I still have a lot of residents who say, well, there's challenges with it. There always will be with a system this size. You have many challenges. But today, what we do, and the team working together, a group of employees that rely on each other to make that focus, the number one thing is that quality water to our residents. Okay? So what is our challenges? And they include our regulatory challenges. Regulatory challenges impact all of us in some form or fashion. But you may have heard forever chemicals recently. We're seeing on the horizon, we're seeing the challenges of water systems to make sure that we are protecting public health. And every aspect of that is checked and monitored. And we are on the cutting edge with our lab on being able to identify those quickly and timely. We've seen great improvements in verifying system operations, and we've seen compliance really consistent over the last 10 years that we haven't seen prior to that. But in that regulatory outlook, it fluctuates. We all see the politics of today impacting that. So part of the challenge of running a water system of this size is just managing the politics related to funding of infrastructure, what the water quality is, and then all aspects of it. One of the projects that we have in place that's helping tremendously, will help tremendously, is the MI metering system. And that's going to give us that data to understand how our system works and how to improve our system. And so data-based decisions are going to make us much better organization. That comes with all the conspiracy theorists think that is a horrible thing, that we can read your meter. One of the things I heard or I saw in an email was that I could check and see when you're in the shower. Let me tell you this, there's 72,000 connections, 2.5 people per connection average. I don't have time. I would have to check 50 of you a minute to know when you're in your shower. That's not what that's for. That is for us to help conserve water, understand when there's unusual use, proactively communicate, and all the things that are positive for our citizens and residents, because we can actually save you money. If you've ever experienced a large water bill because of a leak that was unknown, that system will help with that. It's amazing how the internet can twist something so positive into such a negative perception. But I will tell you, I don't have time to check 50 of you a minute to see what you're doing. If we'll get a warning, it'll give you a warning, and those benefits of that system are tremendous. I did want to have time for questions. So I kind of rushed through that. I covered a lot of things. Does anybody have any questions of me? I do appreciate the time. My office is in City Hall, and my contact information is down there if anybody has any questions for me directly. Thank you.